Burn your marketing calendar. Seriously though, it's holding your brand back. I talked about this last week at Brighton SEO. It's the world's biggest search conference, and I could tell I struck a chord because as I was talking about this, nobody was blinking. The whole notion was, don't plan for the calendar, plan for the conversation. Calendars are built for campaigns that have to happen on a certain date. And if you really stop and think about it, what is that? 10%, maybe 20% of everything you do? But the other 80%, you're assigning arbitrary dates and checking boxes with something that makes people feel comfortable in a planning meeting, but die the moment they launch because they mean nothing to where your customers are actually at in the real world. Fortune 500 national advertisers, Nike, Ford, State Farm, they're all setting the wrong example for us because they can afford to play that game. They've got billions of dollars that they can use to brute force their way into a conversation. They can create their own wave. But the rest of us, consumer tech, startups, challenger brands, that's not our reality. We can't spend our way into relevance. We need to catch the wave, not try and create it ourselves. So if awareness creates the wave, but we can't brute force our way into awareness with budget, how do we find the wave? What is the wave? The wave is the moment, the trend, the current conversation. That's our wave to attach to. That's how we become part of what's on everybody's mind. The whole point is don't plan for the calendar, plan for the conversation. Instead of spending 2 months to build a campaign that has a nice little date on a calendar that means nothing to your customers, spend that 2 months allowing you to create a system that allows you to spot the trends your audience cares about and instantly join the conversation. You need a process that allows you to stay nimble of the moment and react instantly. For some reason, we think of the whole notion of the crisis room or the war room only for moments of crisis, but that we don't know what's going to happen, but we'll be ready when it does mindset is actually just how you should be operating 80% of the time. But I know what you're thinking. How can anybody possibly foresee what the internet is going to care about tomorrow? Nobody's got that crystal ball. But there's 2 things you can do to prepare for the seemingly unpreparable. These are things I've done in my career that work. The first is you can define where you play. What are the categories of trend your customers care about? What are the moments and conversations where it makes sense for your brand to join that conversation, to attach to that wave? Once you've defined where you're going to play, you need to define what you're going to play with. You need to build your asset shelf. What are the things you can pull off the shelf at moment's notice when a trend pops off that allows you to join that conversation authentically, but that also pushes your product? You need stuff that you can pre-make and pull off the shelf at moment's notice. But let's ground it with an example. I'll share a system that I built for a popular music streaming brand. One that was operating off a calendar like they were Nike, but with literally 2% of Nike's budget. To define where we play, we dug into social conversation data to answer the question of, what are the things that really get music fans talking? What are the things that get music fans going crazy? What do they care about? The first was romance. When an artist starts dating somebody else famous, or 2 artists start dating, or better yet, 2 artists who are dating go in the studio and make music together, that drives a lot of conversation on social. The second was nostalgia. Maybe an artist that people loved in their teenage years but hasn't released music in a really long time is dropping an album or going on tour for the first time in 2 decades. Also a moment that really gets people talking. And the last one was beef. When 2 artists are feuding, getting after each other, that drives a lot of social conversation. So we identified these 3 and a couple others to experiment with. And we said, all right, these are the categories that we're going to keep our eye on. And when a trend pops off, we're going to hit it hard. But what do we do when the trend pops off? Because all we know right now is it's going to happen at some point. So what do we actually do to add value to that moment? This is where we built our asset shelf. we created a ton of content in advance. In this example, a lot of them were playlists. So for romance, we created playlists featuring the best duets of dating artists, or playlists of breakup songs for when the inevitable happens. Swifties, relax. I don't think Taylor's gonna be in that category. We can leave that one on the shelf for her. Chill out. For nostalgia, we created a ton of decades content. 70s pop, 80s rock, throwback jams, the best one-hit wonders, music that takes people back to a time and place. And for beef, we created playlists of the all-time diss tracks, like the hardest hitting diss tracks ever. And then we had some artist playlists for those artists, sure you can think of them, who are always feuding with someone. And then we built a repository of creative assets that we could use. Now, of course, when a moment popped off, it's gonna need a bit of customization. Your messaging and how you join that conversation is gonna need to be unique to that moment. But we had done enough prep work so that first we were able to know when that trend popped off, and then we had stuff we could quickly turn around. Because you don't wanna be a brand that chases trends. Trust me, you don't wanna be IHOP and launch the Dubai chocolate pancakes like 6 months after anybody cared about that on TikTok. Don't be IHOP. But there's another part of this that really lands the notion of preparing for the unpreparable. And that is, once you've defined these categories, you need to route them all the way up and down the chain. And you need a decision-making framework to understand and decide, is this an off-the-shelf moment or is this a go big moment? Because if it's a go big moment, you're gonna need everyone to stop what they're doing, drop whatever they're working on, pivot, and refocus on how you can get in the middle of that conversation, how you can blow that trend up. And you don't have time to debate that. That moment will pass you by. You need that alignment up front. Both of those, the off the shelf and the go big, they each have different processes. And when you decide which one is your situation, you need to initiate the right step of that process. So I started off by saying burn your marketing calendar, but maybe just burn 80% of it. For most brands, only a fraction of your stuff needs to be planned dates or an attempt at truly creating your own wave. The rest should be about catching the wave as it's cresting, not after it breaks. And to do that, I believe systems beat calendars every time. Calendar tells you when and what to post, but a system helps you make sure that that thing is the right thing at the right time to the right audience when they actually care about it. Fortune 500, national advertisers, they can play by the old rules. The rest of us can't. We need a model that's faster, more nimble, and way more powerful. Conversation-driven, attached to culture, and free-flowing. And it's fun to operate this way. Calendars are boring. It's exactly the kind of system we build at Field Vision. And if you're interested in learning how to apply this at your brand, I'll do it for you for free. Yeah, just email me or DM me on socials, wherever you're watching this, and we'll show you the blueprint, hand you the keys, and then you can go run the play yourself. That's how you scale with soul and how you win today and win the long game. Turn it.